What do you think about your storytelling? Because one of the staff give you feedback about your storytelling.
No, Arushi, I expected more. मेरे को थोड़ा सा expectation
I mean, I'll take your feedback.
disappoint हुआ मैं.
And how was Shark Tank experience to you?
आपके जैसे 1 लाख लोग थे. आपकी story telling skills थोड़ी weak है क्या?
There was nothing if it does not work. Then I had no plans.
Boring है.
So rings, earrings,
Boring
ये
है
सब.
website.
आपको बोरिंग लग रहा है, but हम थोड़ा clean रखना चाहते हैं.
You can choose to grow or not, but you cannot choose to survive or not. So we wanted to make sure that we are surviving first and building a brand later.
But don't you think there's a resistance when we talk about lab-grown diamonds?
There is like a concept of being rare, which exists for natural diamonds, which does not exist for lab-grown diamonds.
Any young 20-year-old can actually start a lab-grown diamond business or whatever within 10 lakh. We want to start with the name. How did you come up with the name?
So I think Emory in German means very powerful and brave, and in Japanese it means prosperity. And generally, I thought it associates with diamonds very well because diamonds are the most powerful substance that we know of, and they're given, in special occasions. They signify the start of something. So they stand for prosperity in a way. So I found the name very fitting, and plus I did like a customer survey among my friends and family, and this name almost came out unanimously. So everyone picked this name. So I thought it's a good name.
Good name. And if you were to rename it, what would you name it?
Oh,
Or let's say you're 20-year-old and you want to start your own lab-grown diamond jewelry brand again. What would you name it?
I'll have to think because it took me like a few weeks to come up with short list of names and then finally pick this.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to rename, I think I'll probably rename it something which is instantly gives the category away. So something with diamond like or carat. Like for example, I think Carrot Lane is a great name because you
Carrot
understand it's about diamonds. So I think I will probably pick that. I think that's something that I missed, but I don't have any specific name right now in mind.
Resonating with Emory, I want to understand because of our audience is very young entrepreneurs and young people who really want to build. And taking you as an example, if someone wants to start their own business in this space, especially in very trust-based business like lab-grown diamonds, or let's say we are building a lab-grown diamonds business only, what will be the first steps would you take from, like, as you mentioned, naming we have done? What will be the next step? Initial capital required, and how would they take it to going on Shark Tank or raising funds and to make a big brand?
I think any business that you do, and specifically if it is a product-based business, no matter what the category is, I think getting the product right is the first thing. So, for example, when I started Emory, I think it was very important for me to, get the first set of designs and collection, understand the full supply chain, get that back end sorted so that when the customer order is placed, like I, already have the manufacturing figured out. And I think getting the nuances of the product right is very important. Like for example, for my category, it was like, the product needs to have a very good finishing, right? The very good quality of the jewelry. The diamond needs to be of very high quality. So understanding all the technicalities of the diamond, all the technicalities of the manufacturing process for jewelry, so that the final product that is coming out, which I would be giving to my customer, that is something that I'm proud of. Right. So I think for any, irrespective of the category you're in, just figuring out the product first is very, very important. And then after that, it is figuring out the product market fit, which is like, who are your customers? Why will they buy from you? Why are they buying from you? Or why are they not buying from you? So understanding and finding that product market fit, I think that is the second step.
So we got the product right. We got the product market fit right. When it comes to trust building and marketing, how would you do that?
So in high value categories, it's a little slow game, right? It doesn't happen from day one. So in, whenever you start, right, it's like, for example, we started with performance marketing. We of course got a few orders from friends and family, but if I exclude those, we started with performance marketing, and whatever lead we used to get, right, there was a lot of direct pitching that I used to do. Do to those customers. I used to tell them about my profile. I used to give them like a LinkedIn profile of mine, just so that I can gain their trust and tell them, this is something I'm starting out, but I come with some credibility. So, your money is in safe hands because you are also building online, right? So in the online space, generally the customer is always reluctant in paying a very high amount. And our product category was such that, the customer had to shell out like 25,000, if not 50,000. In terms of money. So I think using my personal credibility, I was able to get like the first few customers. I think the second step is that make sure that your product fulfills all the certifications and all the requirements that you can get from third parties. For example, in our product, we provided and we still do provide like certified diamonds. We provide BIS hallmarked gold. So everything was certified, which is another trust layer for the customer, wherein we could tell them that, see, this is like a certified product that you will get. So there is nothing, you don't need to believe us, but you can believe on that certification that you will get, that whatever we are telling you is exactly what you will be able to get. And then I think building the entire ecosystem in terms of, your payment gateway, your shipping partner, if all of these, your banking partner, if all of these are reliable entities, I think that also helps in building trust, right? For example, if you're going with a payment gateway that is unknown, then the customer on the payment page might be a little reluctant to, make the final purchase, because one, they also don't know you, right? The second is like, again, for the shipping as well, because we went with trusted shipping partners like Blue Dart, etc. So there was like a higher level of trust that the customer would be able to get in, in a category which needed a lot of trust from the customers. So I think you need to do like every small and big things in the initial stage to make sure that the customers are trusting you.
How much initial capital you put in this?
So I started very frugally. So I started with, I think, some 50,000, 1 lakh, at least in the first 2-3 months. But when I started hiring people, I needed designers in my team. So when I started hiring people, that's when like a little bit more capital was required. And I think in the first year of operations, the total capital that I put in was around 10 lakhs. So not much.
Only 10 lakhs?
Yes.
So any, young 20-year-old can actually start a lab-grown diamond business or whatever within 10 lakhs?
Yes, you can start online.
You can start online.
When you plan offline, that's where you need a lot of capital and inventory. But online, of course, you can start with a very low capital business.
And especially in the business, high trust business, your AOV will be very high, right?
Yes.
And the profit margins also are like also high, or like what's the scenario in that?
So the profit margins are generally low, because it's fine jewelry, right? Gold, there is no profit margin. We need to sell at the regulated price. So we like the percentage profit margin is low, but on an absolute basis, it sort of makes up.
And when we look at like e-commerce, you're selling online, you need absolute money because you have to then put ads again. And, so currently our product is fit, our product market fit is done, distribution is cracked. And all of if I have to summarize in it, you have to get your small things very well in line in order to be able to build trust. And initially you mentioned you use your credibility on the line so that you're not running away with the money.
Yes.
So building trust is very important in trust-based businesses, especially jewelry.
Correct. Yes.
And I believe that 20-year-olds wouldn't have that kind of credibility. So maybe building credibility with the brand would be very important. So would you focus because of this content creation era, would you focus someone who's building in public, have a leverage on a trust-based business like jewelry itself?
No, for sure. I think these days also, like for the people who are 20-year-old these days, I think they are much ahead where at least my generation was. And, they are much more connected. They're much more public, just in terms of themselves. So even it's not about, having credibility as per having like LinkedIn profiles, right? It's more about people knowing that, this is a person that I'm paying my money to. So, can I trust this business? So if you are like if you have your Instagram and you have like, even if 500 followers or 300 followers and people know that this is a genuine profile, this is not a fake profile, I think that will also help you build that trust with the people. Of course, like a little bit of age and experience helps, because people know that, this person is somebody who comes with experience versus like a student, I think. But I think it's more about, telling people that, there is like a real person behind this. Mm-hmm. So there's no scam happening. Like there's no ghost behind this project. It's like, one real person, and you can catch hold of me if anything goes wrong. So I think that really helps. So I don't think you need like experience as in like a resume to build credibility, but you do need a public profile so that people can see you and trust you.
So if I were to start tomorrow, I'll have a good, decent credibility.
Yes,
I mean, if I'm doing podcast with the founder.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, definitely. I think people will trust you.
People will trust me. Yes. We'll go back with the history of before Emory, who was Arushi. You were in corporates. You had that courage to leave corporate. So I just want to understand that, because I've talked to a lot of people who are in corporates, and everyone has this dream कि मेरे को business करना है. Everyone has this dream. You will not find a single employee who doesn't have. But only if you have the courage to take that leap of faith. How did you have that courage?
So I think, to be very honest, it is tough because to take that leap of faith, because it's a lot of money you leave on the table. right? And I think that's where students of like 20-year like yourself are have an advantage, because you don't have money on table that you leave and start something. Because I worked in corporate for 10 years, I think, then leaving that high paying job and that money coming in and starting something where I had to actually put in money. I think there's a lot of financial decision making that definitely goes over there. So I think in general it is hard for people, because a lot of people have a lot of responsibilities also, right? For example, if you have education loan, or if you have your family responsibility, you need to bring in X amount of money just to keep your family running. I think those are some of the that's where the decision making becomes difficult. Fortunately, like I feel, I came from a little bit of that privilege wherein I did not have education loan, or I did not except for my expenses, I did not have to worry about anything else, and I had decent savings to cover up for my expenses for the next few years. So for me, that decision making was slightly easier, but still it is tough. For a 20-year-old, it is much easier today, because you have a lot of years ahead. You can experiment, and you don't come with a lot of liabilities today. But of course, with age, it
Age
becomes
becomes
slightly difficult.
And one of the things which you mentioned is like decision making. You decided prior only that you will leave this corporate, and you started Emory like before leaving your job, or like you just left and you'll be like, now I'll start something.
So no, I think it was for a long time. In my last job, I kind of knew that this is going to be my last job. It was always also my dream always to have a business of my own. And I think I've worked with Oyo for 6 years, and I generally tell my friends, I think the reason I worked there for so long was because I knew that I cannot do another job after this. Like, I was done with jobs, and just that taking that leap of faith was tough. So just staying in my last company became just the default, because I'd already made up my mind subconsciously that this is it. I did not see me working anywhere else after that. And I think I think so. It took me a little bit of time to figure out what business I want to do. But I think towards the last 6 months is when I started working on this idea, and that is when I saw a lot of potential on this idea also. And like that's when I started like a little bit on my notice period, and then I did it full time.
So you left when you had that traction ki abhi chal jayega, or like you were like
No, I left it on the idea.
on the idea
Yes,
itself.
yes. When
So-
I decided,
Mhm.
okay, let's do this.
And you have enough savings like for covering up your expenses for a few months further, and
Yes.
so you planned it in a way.
I mean, I had worked in corporate for 10 years. I still have enough savings to cover my life expenses for the next 5-10 years. So I think
So
I was
you covered everything, and then you were like
I was sort of sorted that way. So that was not a problem. Of course, putting money in the business
Was a
is
problem.
where a lot more capital was needed. And that's where like, certain savings I put in, and, I got some money from my family also. I think that is different, but like my personal expenses were not something I was worried about.
that's a very big privilege, because a lot of people have, as you mentioned, responsibilities, and they can't put their anything
Correct.
online.
Yes.
And what changed, like when you became a founder, within like you left your OYO job, and within 1 month, within that 6 months, within 1 year, what changes did you feel in yourself? Because in corporate, sometimes you can say 9 to 5 and you can just leave, but in entrepreneurship you have to be 24/7, right? You
Ah.
can't just be like
Yeah.
nahi aa raha kal job pe.
Yeah. I think initial 1 year is very hard. I'll be honest, because there's a lot of uncertainty. I didn't know what I was building. I didn't know what I planned to build was something that people will buy, right? I didn't know where the first 5 customers will come from, and would they even like the product that we are selling. So I think the first 1 year, or at least the first 8-10 months, till you have like a first few customers, and you start getting that validation from customers in terms of liking your product. I think till that point it is very, very uncertain. And there were very hard days that we have, that I had seen, and of course my team was there. But I think it gets easier after that, for sure. First 1 year was like figuring out the product properly, figuring out how to sell. Why are people buying? What are people buying? Right? For example, I think initially we started with selling products under 25,000, and suddenly we were getting orders which were above 25,000, and all customized orders. That's when we realized, okay, people are not looking for 10-15,000 products. People are wanting to buy solitaires, which cost a lot more. So I think that was like, that came with a lot of customer feedback. So yeah, I think it is hard in the sense, like you said, right? In a job, it's like, okay, you get up, you have a bad day, you might not even go to work. right? Or you keep getting that external validation from people around you in terms of either being invited to discussions, meetings, or just like manager feedback, etc. But like in entrepreneurship, it is there is initially the time is when no one telling you externally what to do and whether you're doing a good job or not. I think that external validation comes in once a customer start telling you, okay, I like your product, or they start interacting with you. But because you're in a high value product, it's not like we started selling from day one. So for us, it took a little bit of time to really understand whether customers are even liking our product. So I think that was the hardest part.
And the good and bad part, both about entrepreneurship, is the same thing. No one tells you what to do.
Yes.
Did you face any challenges as a woman entrepreneur? Maybe to prove authority. Maybe people didn't take you seriously just because you were a woman.
Very honestly, this is my take. Like, I think I had passed that stage of my life because I had been in very senior roles in my job as well. So I think, I had passed that stage wherein people will not take me seriously. So in corporate, maybe, in my initial years, I would have faced, or at least felt that I faced that bias. But like over, I think with all the years of experience and, rising through the ranks, I think I had already established that, I deserve the place that I have. And I think when I started my company, I think then it's easier, right? Because you are paying people. So it's not like they don't take you seriously. They took me very seriously. So no, as a founder, I've never faced that issue.
I think because you had passed that phase,
Yes.
and people wouldn't, even when I go to a lot of people for different stuff, they'll be like, "Tu bachcha tu ja." Like, and then after, when I show them my LinkedIn and all, they're like, okay, now you can sit and now you can talk. And I think, like, how did you pass that stage of, because I think a lot of young women entrepreneurs would face this not taken serious, not only women, men also. Like people, let's keep it in a general way that, if as a founder or as a normal person, normal employee, corporate, they're not taken seriously. What things you have to do, or, how do you prove your credibility and make sure that people take you seriously?
So I think, generally, I used to tell people one very simple thing, right? If you're not being taken seriously, there is only one thing that you need to do. You need to always talk with data, right? Just take numbers and make sure they are correct. And then there is no one who will not take you seriously. So I think that is my very simple funda. And of course, there are a lot of roles where data is not there, right? Like if you're more creative, and I don't know what works over there, but in like a lot of corporate jobs wherein there could be anything, whether you're talking about consumer experience, whether you're talking about operational efficiency or anything, right? The revenue, right? Just when you bring data to the table, to the discussion, there is no one who cannot take you seriously. So I think that's my only funda that
worked for you.
Yes.
And good impact of soft skills as well. How do you portray yourself? How do you position yourself?
So I think over the years I've realized that soft skills can be an enabler, but it is not something, but you can do without it. Right, as long as, because see, we work in India, right, and especially in the startup world, it's not like MNCs wherein you need to interact with international colleagues or clients, etc. So as long as your job is not interacting internationally, I think Hindi is a very, very well accepted language in the corporate culture in India. And even if you don't have like that communication skills of talking in English, or even if you're not very polished, even in talking, I think as long as you're making sense, people will listen. But then, of course, you need to make sense, right? If you'll not make sense, then those soft skills don't help.
So talk with data will be a factor.
Yes.
And now we went through a journey from corporate to starting Emory. Emory's initial days. Why only lab-grown diamonds? Why not jewelry? Why not traditional stuff like that? Was it because of capital? Was it because of you want to start with D2C, or what was the thing?
I think I was interested in doing something in the diamond industry. One, because as a kid, I grew up, with a lot of importance of Surat diamonds, because a lot of my extended family stayed in Surat. So whenever I used to visit my grandparents, there would be a lot of extended family orders ki, Surat se ye le aana. Not to me, of course, to my parents. So they would say, just get us so-and-so from Surat. And I used to go to Surat, visit like a lot of jewelers. So I think I had some affinity to this industry since then, diamond jewelry industry. But I think the reason for starting lab-grown diamonds was because of a gap I saw in the market. And this is early 2023, when lab-grown diamonds were not popular. 99 out of 100 people in India had not heard about them. I think when I researched and learned about lab-grown diamonds, I was like, this is a perfect product that sits on the intersection of being like value-driven and aspirational, and which is exactly what the Indian market is. right? Indian consumer is aspirational. They look at the West for all the things that the Western countries are doing. But at the same time, they're very value conscious, right? So I thought that lab grown diamonds is that perfect product that sits, in between these two things. And then there were not many people selling it, which was very weird for me. So I was like, this is an industry that will 100% grow in India. And back then there were hardly 3-4 players, and none of them was like an online first player. So I thought, why not like bring in great designs in this particular category and sell it online that the customer of the new generation would be looking to buy. So I think that was the initial starting point.
Interesting. And like, is there still a gap in this industry, or like the gap has been covered?
So I think today also, there are a lot of players, of course, but a lot of them come from very traditional and a lot of incumbent players that have started their lab grown diamond brands, right? But the difference is, one, they're selling very traditional designs, which I feel, as a customer myself, I will not want to buy, what exactly my mom is buying, right? So I'm looking for a different aesthetic. I would want to buy something that I can wear to office, that I can wear to a mall, which is like very lightweight, minimalistic jewelry, which is where, there are hardly any players working in that particular domain. And the second is that I would want an online brand wherein I can get all the details online. I'm an introvert person. I don't like to talk to, a 5 salesperson to figure out what I want. I would just want, give me like a good website wherein I get all the product. I get full transparency and I'll make my purchase. So I think that online first and transparent brands are what are still very rare in the jewelry industry overall, who are also selling like modern design. So I think that is the gap that we are still filling, which I think is still a very big gap, and a lot more players can come in and try to fill this gap.
But don't you think there's a resistance when we talk about lab grown diamonds? Because there are diamonds and there are lab grown diamonds. So what is the resistance? Why is there resistance? And how were you able to tackle that resistance?
So I think the first and foremost reason for resistance is that people are unaware of what lab grown diamonds are. 3 years back, they did not even know what lab grown diamond, that the term lab grown diamonds. Today, people have heard that, there's something called as lab grown diamonds, but people are not aware what these are, right? So just to clarify to everyone, right, lab grown diamonds are identical to natural diamonds. They share the same physical, chemical, and optical properties. They share the same shine, the same composition. And, the only difference is that they are being made in an lab setup, whereas natural diamonds come through mining within the earth, right? So I think people are generally not aware what lab grown diamonds are. They have like basic myths that are these American diamonds, which is cubic zirconia, which is not a diamond and which has very different physical properties. Sometimes they have this myth that, shine to nahi chala jayega. They think, this is something jiska koi resale value nahi hoga. So I think these are the myths, but I think this is all something that we bridge through education. Like if you interact with our team online or offline, we will educate that, even for diamonds, natural diamonds, the resale comes from the retailer, not from the product itself. You cannot take a diamond and sell it the way you sell gold, right? That it's an accepted price of the product. It's like the retailer will give you the same price or whatever X% of the price that you paid for natural diamonds. And that's the same concept that applies for lab grown diamonds today, that most brands are giving you, a buyback and exchange policy. So these are like all the myths that exist around lab grown diamonds are the reason that there is like a resistance for lab grown diamonds. But that's slowly going away as more and more brands are creating this category.
Is it also because like the real diamonds, which are not lab grown, are naturally formed and they are scarce? Like, you can generate it in enough quantity, but like the normal ones are like very scarce. Like you don't know कि कल से कल को diamond होना बंद हो सकता है. Like maybe is it because of that?
So it is definitely, there is like a concept of being rare, which exists for natural diamonds, which does not exist for lab grown diamonds because, it's being made in a lab. You can produce it in bulk. So that is definitely there. But I think the difference is also, much more compensated in terms of the price. So price wise, when lab diamonds are costing you 5 to 10% of the price of natural diamonds, I think that takes care of the rarity concept. So a lot of people today, when they buy diamonds, right, like let's say they're buying for an engagement, they're not thinking I'm buying a diamond because it is rare. They're thinking I'm buying a diamond because, I want to buy a diamond ring because I want to prove my love, or just like it's a symbol of love, not even prove, like it's a symbol of love for, my to-be wife, right? So how many people are really thinking, oh, this is like a rare thing, that's why I'm buying it, right? So I think of course, if you want something which is rare, you should go and buy natural diamonds. But if you think, that's not a thing for you, it is more like you want a smarter choice in terms of money, a smarter choice in terms of the environment, then of course you can look at lab grown diamonds because they cost much less.
What about the resale value of lab grown diamonds?
So resale value of lab grown diamonds is exactly how it works for natural diamonds. Most retailers and brands provide like a buyback and exchange policy in which they give you like 80 to 90% of the price that you might have paid for. And this is how exactly it works for natural diamonds also. So I think today a lot of brands, at least organized players, are providing that facility to their customers. And at Emory also, we make sure that we are giving you like a buyback and exchange policy so that tomorrow you can upgrade or you can just bring back your diamond and we'll give you like money back against
So it's
it.
in the Emery's policy.
Yes.
For lab grown diamonds, education is really important. So how is Emory building that education? How making aware about lab grown diamonds and this industry, not only in India but in the world?
So today, of course, we're focused on India. So we are doing our bit in the Indian market. So multiple ways, right? Like one is, of course, our content in terms of online on our website, on Instagram. We tell people what lab grown diamonds are, why you should go for lab grown diamonds. What is the cost benefit? What is the environment benefit? What is the investment? Retention of your lab grown diamonds. We educate through our content. Second is that if you interact as if you come to our stores or if you come online and interact with our sales team, they will give you that education. They will tell you how they're identical to natural diamonds and, what are the reasons that you should opt for lab grown diamonds. I think these are broadly the two ways. And I think, of course, this is a category where everyone is today creating the category. So I think, as a brand, we are not hard selling, but we are telling people, educating people that, these are the reasons you can consider buying lab grown diamonds, but then it is up to you. Yeah. So I think just like we don't do hard sell over here.
Let's say I don't know anything about lab grown diamond. I come to Emery's shop. What things I should ask, like certifications, credentials, so that I understand ki it's not fraud and it's real?
Just in terms of understanding whether it is a lab grown diamond or something else, I think certification will do it. So for example, today lab grown diamonds are certified with all the are certified with third party diamond labs, which also certify natural diamonds. So with that certification, you can be assured that what is the cut, color, clarity of your diamond, and plus whether it's a lab grown diamond or a natural diamond, or it is like neither of these two. So I think certification is what you should ask for in terms of the clarity on the lab grown diamond. That is all you need. And if you're looking to understand what you should buy, I think that is where it gets more complex, but that's more to do with jewelry than to do with lab grown diamonds.
What certifications should I look for lab grown diamonds?
So there are multiple labs that certify, but the top labs are IGI, SGL, and GIA. So you can look for certifications from any of these labs.
And which certification Emory provides?
So we provide IGI and
IGI.
SGL.
Both.
Yes.
Interesting. When we talk about customers, initially you mentioned you used to go, you used to get lead yourself. So there would be customers who have rejected you, different kind of feedback and all. So how did your feedback mechanism work, and how did you handle your first dissatisfied or skeptical customer? Because online, I believe you get thousands of queries every day, and thousands of customers they'll just add to cart and not buy, and customer care, and they'll ask this, that. How do you deal with that?
So I think we were in a category where there were not thousands of leads and thousands of customers. Unfortunately, I wish that was true. But I think by just that 1,000 number is important, because I think for the first over 1 year, I think 1 year, 2-3 months of Emory, right? I was the only salesperson in my team. We have 5-6 people, but I was the only one doing sales. So I was talking to customers, as part of my almost full-time job. And I think I've spoken to over 1,000 customers before I hired the first salesperson. And I think for us, the rejection, or for me particularly, the rejection from customers was not, was not disheartening. I think it was more about understanding what customers are looking for. Why are they not buying? What are we doing wrong in terms of sales? Or is it the category that they're not choosing? And what do we need to do in terms of educating better? Because we were also in a category education space, right? So a lot of times we knew that when customers are not choosing, because they're not choosing to buy this, category lab grown diamonds, this has nothing to do with our brand or our pricing or anything. And we can't do anything. Like the best of the best salesperson would not be able to sell it. So I think it was not disheartening, but I think it was important. Every feedback was important for us to understand what we can do better. Right? Is it because of the category? Is it because of the brand? Is it because of the pricing? Is it because of something that the competitor is giving better than us? I think these were the things that we were looking to understand from every rejection.
What important thing you learned in selling? Because what I have realized is, people get tired, like, नहीं लेना छोड़ दे. मतलब after a point of time you'll be like, यार, so how did you tackle that thing? Because I believe it happens with a lot of young entrepreneurs because they have never sold in their life, और फिर वो ego पे लग जाती है कि मैं तो इसको बोल रहा हूँ, ये ले नहीं रहा and all. So how did you do that, and how do you make sure that your customer is like satisfied at the end of the day?
For me, it was like my first sales job. Like I told you, I'm an introvert. I've never done sales, and I've consciously, in my corporate career also not taken sales or BD kind of profiles because I knew कि भाई this is like going to be very tough for me. It goes against my normal, just how I am. And I think, of course, convincing customers is tough, right? But the important thing is that what we were looking to understand was that, how can we make this product better, right? How can we make this brand better? And that was my personal agenda, because I think very early on a friend told me that the best investment you can do in your business is going to be talking to customers. So I knew that, every customer that I'm talking to, I was able to pick up nuances that, I cannot pick up by just talking to the sales team. So for example, very specific to the industry that we are in, how much of education you give to the customer was also a learning that we got. For example, a lot of people in our from our customers are first time buyers of diamond jewelry, not just lab grown diamonds, but in general diamond jewelry. Now they do not understand basic concepts. What are the 4 C's of a diamond? What are the full scale of clarity that exists? It starts from flawless and then it goes down to SI3. And I think selling myself, I realized, yeah, you need to educate till about 90%, because beyond that, the customer, you're just confusing the customer. So if I need to tell today the customer, yeah, what is like the best clarity of a diamond, I will say, yeah, typically it starts with VVS1, VVS2, then VS1, VS2, but that's not correct, because the clarity starts with flawless, but those diamonds are unavailable practically in the market, or they're very, very expensive. Right, so I don't want to now, and then there is a internally flawless, and then VVS1 comes, which is on the 3rd number. So these nuances, these very subtle nuances in terms of how much to educate, which is relevant, which is correct. We are not misguiding, but at the same time, we are also not confusing the customer. I think these are the nuances that I could pick by selling myself, and of course, this came like gradually once I'd spoken to a lot of customers.
Too much education makes it more confusing.
Yes. So we realized, how much to tell the customer and how much. Whatever is anyway is not available. Why do you even educate that and confuse a customer? Of course, if the customer comes with a prior education, then we would want to add something to it and tell them, if they already know about VVS1 and onwards, then we will also tell them, there is something superior to that also. But like, if you come with no knowledge, then, giving you too much knowledge in that half an hour, 1 hour is just practically confusing you. So these were also the learnings that we gained.
So when we talk about building customer trust, you went into the offline space. How was the traction over there, and how did that really impact your brand?
Up until our store opened up, it had become the situation that in our office there were like multiple customers coming every day. So at least 1 or 2 customers would show up every day to our office, and this is when we used to tell the customers that this is just our office and we have just very limited samples that you can touch and feel, but we don't have any like display as such. And still people were coming up to our office. So I think that is when we realized that there's already a need for having an offline store, because we're already seeing walk-ins, and these are people who are coming especially for us, not just walking in casually, right? And I think that's where we opened up our decided to open up our first store. And I think we were profitable from month 1, because we already had like a lot of customers who were waiting for our store to open up. And they started coming and buying products. So that helped in a lot of just like getting off the ground for our first store. And I think the second thing that was happening up until the point we opened up our store was that we realized that every second query is about where is your store, right? And there are people, there was a customer sitting in Jharkhand and she's asking, where is your store? She knows that our store is not going to be in Jharkhand, right? But she's like, still, I want, you to have a store so that I can trust you to buy online with you, right? So that's where we realize that just having a physical presence is very, very important, even if we are not, even for a customer who is not going to come to our store. I think that sort of traction we saw once we opened up a store. People were trusting us more, even in an online purchase. So I think that was how the store came into being.
And what was the capex of your first store, and how were you able to get that money? Like, did you already made some profits and reinvested in that? Did you raise some money or loan, or what was the scenario?
So I think it took us about like 60 lakhs in terms of capex, plus a lot more in terms of inventory, because inventory was like gold and diamonds, so it was expensive. A lot of that money was self-infused or came from my parents. And I think we did not want to raise at that point, because we're still in that space wherein the business was too small. I wanted to make sure that we are reaching a certain valuation before we start raising money. But yeah, I think setting up an offline presence, I think that requires money for sure.
So it would take around 1 to 1.5 CR, including inventory, if anyone wants to start
close to 2 CR.
Close to 2 CR,
Yes.
if anyone is getting into this space.
Yes.
And that would have really helped you a lot.
Correct. It helped us a lot, because the sales, of course, started coming in from the store from month 1. I think by month 7, we'd already broke even on our capex also. So I think, and plus it helped give us a lot of credibility to our entire globe, pan India presence also. So I think we just saw the immediate effect of opening a store.
Opening a store, cool.
Yes.
Now I want to as you opened your store, and how many stores do you have right now?
We have 2 right now. 1 is under fit out. Third is under fit outs.
Third is under fit outs. And what will be a scope of 2026? How many stores you're planning to open this year?
So we are planning to open 10 more stores. That's the top line plan. But we will be needing some capital for it as well. So
you're gonna raise?
We are planning to raise, yes.
Okay. Normally, companies like CaratLane, Dataound, and all this, they have their own consumer-led or brand-led franchises. So, are you open to give franchising to people, or what's the scenario of franchise of your business?
Yeah. So I think after Shark Tank, we got like a lot of franchisee interest inbound, and we are very much keen on doing like franchisee stores, because that's also another way to get capital, basically. But we will keep them company operated.
Company operated. So
Yes.
if anyone is open, want to invest in your company through franchisee, you're open for that.
Yes, we are absolutely open for that.
And how was Shark Tank experience to you, from preparing the decks, numbers, to overall experience? And I think hype after only you got funded and the other guys didn't got funded.
So I think, pehli baat to, Shark Tank is like happens over the months. So I think the first form started in June, and we finally shot in December, and there are multiple rounds, and everything is an elimination round. So you don't know if you'll hear back for the next round or not. Right. So it keeps coming in phases. Like every, June there was first round. I think July there was second round. August was third round, and then finally they told us, I think last week of November or something, that you are shortlisted for the final studio shoot. Once we heard about the studio shoot, there was like a lot of preparation we did. One is like, what are we going to gift the sharks? The second is doing like a lot of improvement or hygiene improvements on our website, just because we are going to feature on the national platform. And I think third was just preparing for the Q&A, which was very important. And I think these were the 3 things that we were preparing towards, and we had very less days, I think 10 or 12 days to do that. So I think that was pretty much the prep. I think when we heard that it is going to be a match off with another brand, I think that was when we were a little disappointed. The audience will get divided. Basically, we're like, if we were the only one in our category, then of course everyone who's looking to buy jewelry will suddenly look at us. But now we were like, it will get divided among 2 brands. So was slightly unhappy because of that. But retrospectively, what happened over there, us getting funding from 4 sharks, and we had offers from all 5, and the other brand not getting any offer, I think. Then, of course, with that comparison that became, and we coming out as so-called winners, I think that helped us.
That helped you more rather than going alone in the show.
Yeah, we also think so. So that helped us get a lot of attention, a lot of traction, a lot of love from everyone around. So I think overall, how it turned out, I can't see a better way of this happening. But yeah, when we were going in, we were quite scared also, because of exactly the same reason, because it was a match off. What if we were the other one, right? So the outcome could have gone anyways.
Different.
And of course we didn't know. So we're also scared for.
So it's
that
live for
outcome.
you also. Like they don't show you how were you looking and all before after the shoot.
No. So we are not able to see each other's pitches also.
No. After like your pitch is done, before airing on the live television, you don't know.
No. The first time like we saw it, it was like live on national TV.
So you don't have any chance to make any changes after that.
No, not at all.
They'll only keep it.
Yes.
What do you think about your storytelling? Because one of the staff give you feedback about your storytelling.
As an early stage startup, you have very limited funds. We were bootstrapped. We had very limited funds, to be honest. And for us, the early choices were very clear. We wanted to build a strong product. We wanted to make sure that we are giving very high value to our customer, whoever is purchasing with us. They should love the product. They should be able to find value for money in the product. And we wanted to have a great catalog so that even if you like the finishing, even if you like the product, but if you don't like the designs, that just breaks for us. So I think we focus on having a great catalog, having a very good finished product, and giving it for prices which make sense to the customer, right? And we had limited funds, so we chose to use our funds towards something that will help us get those sales, that will help us keep the burn low. So we wanted to invest in our performance marketing. We wanted to invest in our SEO, and content marketing or brand marketing is something which we thought, yeah, we will do it, but that does not return a direct ROI. So we were like, we'll park it for later when we have more funds. Not investing a lot on branding has always been a conscious call. We wanted to survive, right? Survival. While you can choose to grow or not, but you cannot choose to survive or not. So we wanted to make sure that we are surviving first and building a brand later. And I think that was the conscious choice. So I think we honestly, long before the show aired, also we knew that we are not as strong in terms of our branding as a lot of brands these days are. And I think what Aman said on the show, I think that was on point. I do feel that it was a little bit, too much in terms of, even I don't think our website is any bad. I think we have a very clean aesthetic, nice aesthetic website. We have a very good, store presence as well. And our store interiors, even the other competitor appreciated, and, our store interiors and everything is also very good. But yeah, like maybe everything does not tie together today as a brand. And that is a feedback that we take. And we realized it before the show also. And we realized it much more stronger, after the show. So that is something that we would want to invest with the new funds that come in. We would want to invest on our branding and storytelling. But the early choice for us was making sure that we are surviving first and we are getting sales and we're keeping our burn low.
And I think it's because of the as majorly you mentioned, it's funds. Because if you have money, you can portray branding and all that stuff. But if you don't have money, jo na mila jaise mila, you have to just start and you have to just get going through it.
Correct. I think and just to give a contrary point of view over here, that a lot of brands are built by branding first, and that is also a great way to build brands. But I think just the kind of person I am, I don't come with a lot of branding background. So for me, I understand product, I understand selling. So I think for me, it was very clear that, we will first build a great product that we are proud of selling, and we can work on the brand later. But there are, I've seen founders, take the other route also, where they build a very strong brand. I think that's a great way also. But we couldn't do both. That was very clear. Yes.
And when you look at your journey of Shark Tank, like obviously the sharks would evaluate on everything, product, founder, trust. But can you rank it in terms of product, founder, and trust? Like what were they evaluating in a way?
So I think one is, of course, the entire Shark Tank that happens is much longer. So it is about an hour that they show you in like 15-20 minutes. So they ask.
So it's an hour-long pitch.
It's an hour-long pitch that they cut down and show you like.
बाद में बोलते कि 15 मिनट में decision लेना पड़ता है.
That I don't know, but. So of course there's like a lot of questions, a lot more questions that they ask. But I think they're definitely looking for a good founder, and they're looking, and of course they're looking for a good product also, because I think like we're in a category where today there is so much clutter. So without a good product, if just a good founder, I think will not cut it. So I think my sense is they're looking for these two. Branding comes third. That's why we got funding.
But like, you know, they say that we bet on founder, product वगैरह sort हो जाएगा and all. Like, is it actually in that or like वो पूरा देखेंगे फिर decide करेंगे?
Yeah, I think everything plays a part. I think
Everything plays a
just a strong founder without a product is, it's not a company, right? So I think while they say it, so maybe they mean that they weigh more, they give more weight to the founder than to the
Mhm.
product. But I think having like a good product is still important. Like
Still important.
as an investor, yes.
And what did not change after Shark Tank?
The hustle did not change in my organization. We are still people working hard every day, fulfilling every order, making sure that timelines are met.
And in
So I
your
think-
personal life, I think a lot of changes would have happened. You know, दूर दूर के रिश्तेदारों को call आए होंगे. But what did not change? Like in your personal life, like कि this was this, like it was like this only, and it is like this right now as well.
Of course, we got, needless to say, we got like a lot of love from all people around. I got like messages from colleagues, ex-batchmates, people I've not spoken to in like 12, 13 years, like distant relatives, of course. We got a lot of messages from our initial customers also congratulating us and, saying that how much they like us and like Emory. And we got a lot of organic mentions as well on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
When people were talking about us, it just went crazy. At least for us, it seemed like LinkedIn is about us now for a moment. But I think there was a very strong understanding that this is all very temporary and it will get back to normal. I think like 95%
Was the same.
nothing changed. Yes.
But like, like people looking from outside, it's like, oh, now they're getting mentioned, and like it's a different world from the other perspective. Now I want to understand, if you were to build Emory with all knowledge you have today, what things would you have done differently, especially when you were leaving your job, when you were initially focusing on product, and decisions which you might regret कि ये नहीं करती तो शायद better होता, and
So I think one is like we, hiring a salesperson and marketing team quite late in my journey. I think for the first 1 year, 2 months, 3 months, we did not have anyone in marketing. I was the only person doing sales. There was a very stupid belief that I had developed that I can do best sales of this company, which got broken in the first week that I hired my first salesperson, right? Because when I looked at her, because I was never a salesperson, right? But I thought like, the passion that I have for this company, the knowledge that now I have gained, and the convincing skills that I have, that no one can beat it, at least for this product. That's what I started believing. But when I had my first, salesperson, Divya, like I learned in the first week that she can do a far better job than I can do in terms of selling the customer, because she comes with a lot more experience in selling, right? Even if it is not for the same product. So I think hiring a salesperson faster and marketing team faster, because like I said, like we focus a lot on building the product for the first 1 year, but I think in parallel we should have started our marketing and sales efforts sooner. I think that is one change that I will do.
You have mentioned hiring, sales, and marketing. So
Yes.
like if you have money, just hire them and do not have this delusion कि मैं ही सब कुछ कर लूँगा.
हाँ, मतलब don't hire a big team, but like at least not like if I am not an expert in sales, right? Let's say, so I should have hired them sooner than I did. So once I knew, 5-10, I've done 5-10 sales, and I know people are wanting to buy this and we're getting leads, then I should have hired the salesperson. Whereas I spoke to like I think 1,000, and it's it's very good to speak to customers, but not as your full-time job maybe, right? Like so. Because I spoke to, I think, over 1,000 customers before I hired the first salesperson. And the moment she came, I realized that, she can close faster. She can do higher sales. She has more time to follow up with the customers when I'm doing like 100 things. So I think, you don't need to hire like a big team, but just make sure that whatever is becoming your job, you hire a person so that that person is taking up that, 60-70% of your bandwidth and making you free to do more in terms of growth.
How did you initially hire people? Like, how did you find some people? Because I'm trying to hire and it's too hard to hire good people.
Yeah, I think hiring or is the most important job as an entrepreneur. And of course, initial hires, we of course did not have any HR, or did it myself, but hired from Naukri, LinkedIn, conversations after conversations. A lot of people don't join because at that early stage, it's also, people don't recognize the company. They're like, and when you tell them it's like just 5-6 people or 3-4 people in the company, people are reluctant to join. So it's more difficult to get a good talent, early on. But yeah, I hired through Naukri, LinkedIn, all of these standard
What are your hiring mistakes that a young founder should avoid?
I think one, I just told you, I had some people very late. I should have
Hmm.
hired them sooner. That is one hiring mistake. I think there were some hirings that I did which were like a little more expensive than the channel. For example, we hired like for our e-commerce very early on, we hired somebody senior, and it's not even a channel. We're not getting sales. We're not a big company, so like affording that kind of salary becomes a little problematic. So I think just like keep your burn low. I think that is very important. So just hire basis how your business is growing. I think.
And how do you fire?
How do I fire? I think so. And let me address that very candidly, right? Like letting go of people is also very important, especially in an early stage company, because we built it very frugally, right? So we did not have extra money to pay salaries if somebody is not pulling their weight. I think it, I think for me it is very clear. One is, of course, if you don't lack the skill that you are supposed to do, that's okay with me. But if you're not showing ownership against it, I think that becomes a problem, right? And more specifically in an early stage company, I think it is very, very important to have very high ownership, right? You cannot think of it as like a 9 to 5 job, because we are not staffed that ways, and what we are trying to build cannot be built in a 9 to 5 job. So I think, and it's okay. No one's expecting that you work round the clock, but just having that ownership to know कि यार अगर आज ये delivery करनी है तो करनी ही है, right? It doesn't matter if I need to go and deliver it personally, or if you need to go and deliver it personally, or if it will happen at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. in the night. But making sure that you are coordinating and getting it done, I think that these kind of things are very, very important. So I think we've let go of people where that ownership was lacking, right? Who thought of it as like a very 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of a job, and honestly, in an early stage company which is growing very fast, it that doesn't cut it for us.
And how do you have that conversation of hiring? Like after everything is, you have established a proper startup organization, you just mail and फिर निकाल देते हैं. But like at early stage startup, you personally hired, and I assume that you have personally fired a lot of people. How does that conversation go?
See, I think for us, or for me personally, when we hire, and especially if I talk in the first 1 year, right, it is not easy, right? I would be the one posting on LinkedIn. I would be the one shortlisting on LinkedIn. I would be the one writing the JD,
Everything.
talking to people, calling them to office for an interview, and I think 1/3 of the people barely show up after even confirming, right? So it takes a lot to hire a person, wait for them to join, and then onboard them and teach them. So letting go is so hard because you've invested so much time and energy in teaching that person. And I think and that is the reason, because letting go is so hard, you also invest further and talk to them candidly. These are the things that are not working out, and let's improve that. Let's figure out a better way to work together, and let's see that you start doing these 4-5 things, and I'll work closely with you. It's not a very blunt conversation in terms of putting them on PIP, but it is more like, for me at least, it has always been that let's give them a fair chance, because hiring again is so tough, right? And whatever they're still doing what at 20-30%. So let's them bring up to that 70-80% where it is more acceptable of keeping them. But I think when somebody consistently shows that they're not improving, or they cannot improve, or it could be genuine reasons, I think that's when you need to have like a more formal conversation and tell them कि यार नहीं हो पा रहा है, right? And this is a cost to the company that we are not able to deal with. We cannot have 2 people in this role, and you alone are not cutting it. So it is better that you look outside and give like a fair notice period that is there. So as a company, because again, I came with 10 years of working, so we are not very quick in terms of firing, to be very honest. We do it very slowly. We give them a fair chance. We don't want people to just feel because we understand people might come with a lot of liabilities. They might have children. They might have school fees to fill, and or just generally, it's a lot of your personal identity also sometimes is attached to a job. So at least I'm very cautious in terms of letting go of people and giving them a fair chance to work and improve.
Talking about hiring and firing, let's do a rapid fire. I'll give you a scenario and you have to tell me you'll hire or fire. Okay. High performer but low integrity.
Not hire. Fire.
Culture fit, slow execution.
Higher.
Early loyal hire who hasn't scaled.
Higher.
Salesperson who oversells trust.
Not higher.
Fire.
Higher.
Strong resume, weak values.
Fire.
Fire. Okay, cool. And now we'll do underrated or overrated. I'll give you some words or some segments of business words, and you have to tell me it's overrated or underrated.
Okay.
VC funding,
Overrated.
brand storytelling,
Overrated.
influencer marketing,
Overrated.
building in public.
Underrated.
Building in public underrated. Okay, and I'll be giving you 2 words. You have to choose one. It's related to business terms. Speed or clarity.
Clarity.
Brand, product, or distribution.
Distribution.
So you're saying that distribution is more important than product.
Even if you have the product, not having distribution will not help. But if you have distribution right, product you can tweak and
You can
still
sell.
you will get still a few chances to get it right.
Okay. Control or capital.
Capital.
Talent or culture.
Oh, both.
Both.
Yes.
You have to choose one. Talent or culture.
I think this is a tough one. I've chosen both and all, but I think this is both are important.
Both are important.
Talent is also important. Culture
is also important. Okay,
Yes.
cool. You started your career in D2C when you talk about Emory. What was one thing that got you right? Because a lot of D2C startups or companies just start, एक महीने में बंद. What was the one thing that was correct for you? कि you cracked that thing and that worked. And what is one thing which you feel like अगर आप उस time पे वो नहीं करते तो आपका बंद था कहानी.
So I think we got right in terms of the industry. I think that was right for us. Because we were still figuring out. I think when I started with one more person, my designer, and we were still figuring out, what to sell, what sells, a lot, designs, collection, everything. But I think what was right was the industry. Like I had a strong conviction on the industry, and I knew that this industry will take off. And when it will take off, we will be the ones that will benefit from the industry. So I think we got that right. Like industry was right.
One thing that saved your business, like, if you would have done that mistake, band tha kahani.
I think opening up the first store.
Opening up the first store.
At the right time.
It was at the right time. And if you would have opened it like later or...
So you would have been left behind. Band shayad nahi hote, but we would have been left behind because like having the first store was something that really customers were looking for.
So in trust-based D2C business, at a point of time, after a point of time, you have to realize that you have to go offline or else...
I mean, depends on the category, right? Like ours was a very high value category. If it is like let's say a more, lower value category, then you may not like very, very big businesses are built without having an offline presence. So at least in a high value trust-based category where designs is also, a key factor that people want to see multiple designs before they buy. I think that is where we needed our first store.
So if AOV is high in D2C and it's a very trust-based business, especially jewelry, so
Correct.
you have to have an offline presence after a point of time. Correct. I think women entrepreneurs, young, a lot of my friends as well, 17, 18, 19, everyone start their own jewelry or some, because everyone are interested in this space. And after a point of time, they'll just put some 7-8 Instagram posts and try, and after that they are done. Is it because the hunger is lacking? Is it because the clarity is lacking? Or is it because I understand that a lot of people do just for fun, but a lot of people have that conviction that they have to make a brand, but they don't. But you had made it. So like, is it because of their lack of hunger, lack of clarity, lack of execution, lack of what?
I think it is not a lack of something. I think it is because of one thing that they have that they should not have, which is plan B, right? Not having plan B helps.
Now we are having conversation. Yeah.
I think not having plan B really helps. Like for me, of course, my plan B was going back to corporate, which was like absolutely something I did not want to do. It was my lifelong dream to have a company. And today, when I was living it, I was very, very hungry to just make it work. I think that was the thing. And there was absolutely nothing. There was nothing if it does not work. Then I had no plans. What will I do? Right. So I think that, if you're starting something on the side, you need to like give it a shot that, if this fails and literally that you are failing, and that sort of hunger is needed when you're starting something new, because it is going to be hard, and it will the first few steps are also the toughest. Getting to the first set of customers is also the toughest, right? Then things will become easier.
I mean, I agree. And when you mentioned first steps, I remember like, when I was planning this podcast, kya karna hai, kya nahi, it almost took me 2 months to even finalize kya karna hai. And within a month and 2, now I'm doing like so many podcasts lined up, and I believe completely to you. And Vijay Shekhar Sharma, the founder of Paytm, also mentioned in one of his speech that, when you get in this entrepreneurial journey, you only have a plan A. उसको ताला मारो और वो ताला को फेंक दो किधर तो, because you can't have a plan B.
Correct.
And all of the founders I've talked to, and I asked them ki, what is the one reason people fail in entrepreneurship is because they have a plan B. If you don't, like, there's this contradictory thought ki, if you should always have a plan B. What if? But the people who are extremely successful are those who didn't really have a plan B. We take example of Viba's founder also. He also mentioned that he has put his house on loan. Minimalist founder.
Correct. Yes,
Mohit. He also mentioned the same thing. Now, it doesn't seem cool to put your house on the loan or whatever mortgage and all, but they did it. And they'll say, the founder of Viba, he mentioned that he recommends everyone not to do that because it was a very big mistake, but because of that only he was able to build whatever brand it is. So for any entrepreneur, you shouldn't have any plan B. And I think that's why starting early helps a lot, because now I don't have any dependence. I can do anything I want and fail and still try again because I'm just 19 and, but after a point of time, it makes a bit difficult.
It's of course, again, when you have like a lot of family responsibilities, kids, etc., then of course it becomes tough. But other than that, like if you see, because at least in India today, there are so many opportunities. So if you're doing anything in India, there is a very high chance you will succeed. It is only that it is not that you will succeed every day, right? So I think that consistency is important, that you will have bad days. You will think, I need to go back and start from the drawing board again. But like that's the thing. You will succeed eventually, but you will not succeed every day. I think that this is important. When you have plan B, then on the days where you don't succeed, you feel, chalo, let's try something else. Ye to fail ho gaya. But that's not how it will work. It will be that you have to be consistent.
And not everyone can be an entrepreneur, right?
I guess so, yeah. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur.
And do you think that you select entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship selects you?
I think entrepreneurship selects you.
Because people try and, they just fail. If you're 20-year-old today, what business would you build?
If I was, 20 years old, I would try something in the generative AI space.
AI space?
Yes.
And if you were to give an advice to 20-year-old Arushi, what would it be?
I would give her the advice ki start building your startup sooner, because because it was my dream since I was a kid, and I think I waited too long to start this because I was scared. But I think there's nothing you don't have. I mean, life goes on. There are wins and losers, and you should not take anything seriously because there is a different end point for everyone. So I think I would give her this advice to just take that leap of faith sooner.
I was about to ask, like, would you change any part in your journey from the start?
I think I would probably start working with a startup, maybe part-time or maybe full-time right out of college, right? Or work part-time with college, because I think, like while corporate exposure helps a lot in a lot of different ways, in a lot of structured thinking, but I think the real skills that I learned when I joined a startup and, something that I needed to create my own startup. So I think I'll do those things sooner, which I did not.
Okay. And you're happy with your journey, like whatever position you are in whatever space you are?
I think there's a long way left to go. So I think I'll be truly happy in terms of what I've accomplished once, there is steady growth in the business. There is, it's a profitable business. Today we are not profitable. And like when there is like a legacy getting established, I think that is when I'll be truly happy. Abhi to we've just started.
Yeah. One piece of advice for me.
I think, Aditi, you're doing great. At 19 years old, you're doing this kind of podcast. You're meeting, very renowned people. So I think you are on a great trajectory. I don't have any advice to give you. I wish I was this 19-year-old.
But still, if you want to give any feedback or any advice,
I think attend your classes.
I'm getting this. Thank you, Arushi. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Aditya. Thanks a lot. Pleasure being here.